To those who have been excluded by Christians, to those who have gone to church their whole life, and to those who are exploring, welcome. We hope that Oak Life Church can be a home for you. If you have been rejected by the church as a person of color, as a woman, as an LGBT person, as a non-Christian, or for any other reason, we're sorry for the way you were treated. We believe that God loves you, and we would be honored by your presence. We'll tell you a little about ourselves, and we hope we can journey together. We hope to love people the way Jesus does. We don't want to judge. We want marginalized people to be welcome here, and we are still improving as an inclusive place. We long for peace and justice on earth. We build this through community service, generosity, and activism. We value community, and we value building supportive relationships with each other. We love creativity, and we love the way God speaks to us through art. We don't claim to know the truth fully, but we seek to follow Jesus, and we seek to grow together. If these are things you connect to, come visit us. We hope you will share with us who you are and help shape our community. With much love, Oak Life Church.
Welcome to this beautiful, weird Sunday after New Year's. Thank you for the people who braved it and are here in person. Special welcome to those online who are watching. Today's kind of a weird one for a few reasons. One, this is a Sunday a lot of churches actually take off after Christmas. We felt like we wanted to be together still, so we're glad you're here. What's up, babe? Welcome everybody who's coming in. As we start, just a quick update. We are watching all the Omicron stuff pretty seriously and trying to practice caution and following directions from local health guidelines and all that. And hopefully this is some light at the end of the tunnel. There's some corners being turned, and the next couple months might be more cautious, but I think we're going to be in a good place soon. Hey, buddy, can you hang with mommy for a sec? So here's the update. Greg had an exposure at some point over the holidays, so we're just being extra cautious. And Greg is online. Greg, can we say hi? What's up?
What's up?
And just a reminder, you can always join us online. And what the beauty of the system we figured out is how to do it like an integrated way. But one of the traditions we've had during the pandemic is to take some space to just honor all that's been going on in our world by lighting a candle on the first Sunday of the month. We've called this our pandemic candle. And this is a prayer that was written by one of our Oak Life family members. And as we start today's service, which I think will be a nice New Year's reflection, we're going to be led in worship remotely, which is only the second time we've done that. For all of you online, this will feel like normal. But as we start, we thought we'd just give some space to all that the pandemic means for all of us and all that's going on in our world, and just kind of center ourselves in the fact that we can still be together. So I'll read this prayer and light this candle, and then Greg will lead us in our worship for this morning. Oak Life, we have lost beloved people. We have lost our sense of safety. We have lost beliefs and ideas and patterns and rituals we once took for granted. Some of us have fought hard for things that never happened. Many of us have lost jobs or homes or relationships. God, give us the strength to grieve together. Beloved community, be tender with my grief as I promise to be tender with yours. We grieve so hard because we love so much. We do not cry because we are weak. We cry because we are strong. As we light this candle, may we feel our soul ablaze with the grief of our collective love, of our great love. May the smoke go up to heaven with our hope for a better world. And I'd like to invite Greg to come down to the front and lead us in some singing. Just kidding, on the screens.
Right on, Chris. I appreciate it. Hold on, let me do some. I'm gonna do some things over here, and I'm gonna do this one over here, and I'm gonna do this one right there. So as we get the lyrics on the screen, shout out. There's a new face in the building. CM Bustos is behind the AV screen. He's the newest addition to Oak Life Familia. So make some noise for added Oak Life fan bam. I can't hear you, so I'm just gonna trust that you did it. Because you can see me, I can't see or hear you, but that's okay. It's neither here nor there. As you can tell, I'm feeling fine, but as Chris mentioned, there was an exposure, so to play it as safe as possible until I can get tested, I'll just be loving you guys from over here. Right on, Adam. Appreciate the prayers, my guy. Big love to you and yours, man, all the way out in Colorado. So this song that I'm going to sing, especially after we've done a quick reflection on, like, all of the heaviness of the pandemic, it doesn't seem like this is an appropriate song because it's a little more upbeat, but it is a song that has a reminding message for me, and a reminder message that I want to share to Oak Life. And it's not that we sing happy songs in sad times as a way to ignore reality, but sometimes we need to sing happy songs as a reminder that life is more than the heaviness that we carry day to day. So, with that being said, whether it's in the physical or in your spirit or in your heart, please sing with me. There we go. You are my joy. You are my song, you are the well, the one I'm drawing from. You are my refuge, my whole life long. Where else would I go? Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me, your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me, your love defends me. Day after day, night after night, I will remember you're with me in this fight. Although the battle, it rages on, the war is already won. I know the war is already won. Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me, your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me, your love defends me. And we sing hallelujah. You're my portion, my salvation. Hallelujah. You're my portion, my salvation. Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me, your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me, your love defends me. Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me, your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me, your love defends me. And we sing hallelujah. all God's people everywhere said, amen. Next up, we have announcements. So welcome up our favorite, my favorite, your favorite, Leslie.
And the crowd goes wild. Okay, I heard that. I heard the wildness. All right. Well, I wanted to bring up my phone because, it's a new year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And the verse of the day yesterday, anybody do verse of the day still? I do. I like it. It's like 5 minutes, And the verse of the day was, for I'm about to do something new. See, I've already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in dry wasteland. So that's what I wish for you all in the new year. Pathways in the wilderness and rivers in the wasteland. That's what I wish for myself too. So, announcements. All right. We're all still wearing masks. We're all playing it safe. We still use our sticker-coded system. Even those at home are still wearing their masks from afar in solidarity. So it's great. In support, we still offer mental health resources. So if you have any need or if you want to recommend anything, please take a look at our mental health resources on our website. Normally, I get to see these ahead of time, but I still do that look back at it, like, what's going on? Because I still don't know every time. All right, if you'd like to volunteer, maybe be a greeter, maybe do announcements, maybe sing. You can sing remotely, see it works. Please sign up to be a volunteer. Perfect. Okay, we're making a change to our childcare starting in the 2022 year. And in that, we're going to have our theater 2 be our family room. So the family room means that anyone with a family can just sit in there. We're going to live stream the service in there. We tested it this morning. It does work. So we'll live stream the service, sit in there. We have toys. We have games. It's a great way to watch the service as well. All right. Yes. January Hangouts. Whoop, whoop. Whoop. Okay. Anyway, so yay! Thursday, January 20th at 7 p.m. at Arthur Mack's Tap and Shack. I don't even know what that is. Tap and Shack? It must be new. So this Tap and Shack, Thursday, 7 p.m. The last hangout was really great. It was at, what is that place called? What is it place called? Telegraph Beer Garden. It was really fun. A lot of people showed up. It's a great way to meet new people, especially if you just started coming to Oak Life. And then Sunday, January 24th, after church, in front of Red Bay Drakes, there's that little like chess board and seating area. So we'll have something after church on Sunday, January 24th. All right. Oak Life has been very generous this year. We have given over $15,000 in 2021. Can we just do a little shout out for that? It's great. So over $15,000 to different organizations that are part of the Oakland community, that are part of the Bay Area. And we continue to support other organizations all through. That's part of one of our missions is to support organizations and continue to build our community. So thank you for your generosity. And thank you to Oak Life for helping us to keep it going, to give back to the communities. All right. Does anyone have any community announcements? Maybe any New Year's resolutions that they'd like to share? Christina.
For me, yeah, Christina. I wanted to thank Oak Life for being a wonderful supportive family after coming here in 2016 during what was a rough time in my life. And this was a major blessing to me. So thank you, everyone. But here's the amount I moved to Davis for work reasons in September. And so I'm now in Davis, and this is somebody my last Sunday with Oak Life because I've now found a home church in Davis. I'm going to be attending Davis Lutheran Church over in the downtown on the invitation of a coworker. And so I'm sad that I'll also excited to announce this, and I will continue to pray for Oak Life. And this has been a great conversation.
So just for those on the online community, Christina has moved to Davis in September and is starting at a new church in Davis. And this will be her last Sunday with Oak Life. Thank you so much, Christina. We loved having you since 2016. That's like an OG in our Oak Life time frame. So thank you so much for being a part of the community. Anyone else? Well, I have an announcement, and I'm on announcements, so it makes sense. Prior to the pandemic, I ran a monthly hiking group, and once a month we would go hiking. People got to vote on where we go. There was 3 locations. It would be like easy hike, medium hike, hard hike. You got to vote. We would show up there 9:00 in the morning on a Saturday, hike, maybe have breakfast. So I am going to start that up again, starting in February, figuring out Omicron in January. So if you are interested, please see me after church, or you can email me at leslie@oaklifechurch.com. All right. So if you want to keep on top of all of these announcements, please feel free to subscribe to our newsletter. It's once a week on Mondays or Tuesdays. And if you don't get it, please check your spam box. So we're going to get started with some couch conversations. Do what you feel most comfortable with. Stay far away or close. We can all hear each other. There's like 12 of us. We got this. Okay. All right, homies, this is your 1 minute warning. 1 minute warning.
All right. Go ahead and finish up your last comments. Welcome again, everybody, to this memorable Sunday, this Sunday after holidays. Thanks again for everyone joining us online and practicing caution this time. I'm glad we get to be together and find a way to do community, and we'll keep doing that come what may. We'll find ways to be together. My name is Chris. If I haven't met you yet, a special welcome to anybody who's online, who's checking us out, who's new, or is your first time here at the Parkway. So, and again, Christian, thanks for jumping on and helping with sound stuff and all that. So there's a lot of negative stuff in our world right now, huh? Have you noticed that? There's just a ton. And if it's not like negative news stories, it's like just negative energy that is out there. Even after the holidays, after the warm fuzzies of the sentimental season. And it's everywhere. And even if it's, not just a negative story, it's like the attitude of, I would say, like critique is so common in our culture. In fact, the other day I was on Twitter. This will give you a window into my social media feed. Somebody was critiquing pastors. And side note, there's a whole nother discussion on like my weird existential sense of self and identity in that title, that word, because I know how often it's been misused. I feel icky about it because it has like power dynamics, but there's times where it's okay. But anyway, so my social media feed has a lot of what I would call deconstructed Christians who have healthy critique for American Christianity and all its flaws, and there are many. And so I was like on my social media feed on Twitter and saw somebody saying pastors are bad because X, Y, and Z. And I can't not take it a little bit personally. And then I was like, And I scrolled through and there were 3 other comments about pastors that were all negative. And I started thinking, yeah, that's true. But that's not the whole story, right? There's a lot of people I know who are in this line of work are wonderful humans, trying really hard to love people, to live out their faith, to create sacred community. And it got me thinking about everything that we consume, all the messaging, all the ideas, the concepts, all the interactions we have, how many of them are skewed negative, right? The negative is what captures our attention, often creates fear, which captures our attention. And there's a lot of negative stuff to be named, sure. But is that the whole story? They say there's evidence that us as humans need about 3 positive comments for every negative comment to maintain healthy mental states. How many positive comments do you receive versus a negative comment? And the negative seems to have a more significant impact to our physiology than the positive. We need a bunch of positive to outweigh just a couple negative statements. I've done a good amount of premarital work with couples, and even reflecting on my own partnership relationship, I know this to be true. Like the negative one will stick. It's the one that'll capture your attention and it'll hold there. And I think in our world right now, there is a lot of negative. If you had to guess, what percentage of the content that you consume, the messages that you hear, are positive versus negative? Are a voice of critique, which could be healthy and justified, but is it the whole story? Is it balanced with positive? How much good are we taking into our souls, into our eyes, into our brains, into our minds, and our spirits? What does that have to do with church, New Year's, all that stuff? We'll get there. So I want to take you to the book of Philippians. Our text for today is going to be Philippians chapter 4. And just for context, I think I have some pictures of ancient Philippi and a map. I love maps. Anybody else like maps? I once told somebody that, and they're like, I happen to be a cartographer. And we geeked out for like an hour, like that they make maps for a living. How do you get, yeah, that's a great job. So Philippi, top center, what will be now part of Greece, kind of give you a picture of what the city may have looked like back in the day. Philippi was known for being very nationalistic and patriotic. It was a city that had deep connection to Rome and to Caesar. You could think of some of the cities in our country that would have like American flags everywhere, which I don't have a problem with that. Does that ever like give people weird feelings sometimes? There's so much patriotism. It's like, what? And so Paul is writing and doing ministry in a city called Philippi that was very patriotic, and at some point was imprisoned and was writing back to them. And in the letter of Philippians, he does a lot of kind of anti-empire talk, which is very subversive. So if you kind of know the sense of they loved Caesar, they loved Rome, and then Paul says stuff like Jesus is Lord, and that's like very subversive to the sentiment there. Like going to a very patriotic community in our country and saying, yeah, U.S. isn't all that cool. There's something better and bigger, the kingdom, whatever you want to say. So that's the backdrop, and it has a little bit to do with the passage we're going to read, just to give you some history there. But let's read Philippians 4, 1 through 9. And this passage just kept coming up as, what's the message? This is like a standalone Sunday. We haven't started a new series yet. This is kind of a New Year's reflection. As we enter into the uncertainty of 2022, the highs and the lows, this passage kept coming up. And this is Paul's send-off at the end of this letter, sending his people into a world of great uncertainty as well. So let's read it, and then we'll take a moment to let the passage breathe. I'd love if anybody in here feels comfortable sharing like a word or a phrase that is speaking to them. Also the online community as well. Philippians 4, 1 through 9. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, whom I love and long for, my joy and crown, stand firm in the Lord in this way, my beloved. I urge Euodia and I urge Syntyche to be of the same mind in the Lord. Yes, and I ask you also, my loyal companion, help these women, for they have struggled beside me in the work of the gospel, together with Clement and the rest of my co-workers whose names are in the book of life. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Verse 8, finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. Philippians 4, 1 through 9. Any words or phrases or concepts speaking to you or being brought up in you as you heard this passage from this letter from Paul to the church in Philippi? Yes. And I'm going to try to repeat as best I can for the online community. Go ahead. Let go, let God. Yeah. Let your gentleness be evident, especially in light of a lot of the negative. Let some of that positive out too. Those folks online, if there's any words or phrases that are speaking to you, give another minute or another moment. Cool. So I want to dig deeper on the second half of this passage and read it in two different paraphrases. The first is the Message, which is a paraphrase written by a pastor named Eugene Peterson. And the second is the First Nations version, written by indigenous Native Christians, Native Americans who are Christian. So verses 8 through 9 in the paraphrase in the Message. Summing it all up, friends, I'd say you'll do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, things to praise, not things to curse. Put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard and saw and realized. Do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies. And then the First Nations version. Last of all, my sacred family members, if anything can be seen as good and honorable, think deeply about such things, about these things. Things that are true and noble, upright and pure, full of beauty and worthy of respect. Follow the way of life you have seen in me, the things you have learned from me, heard from me, and received from me. Keep walking in the traditions I have passed on to you. Then the great Spirit of peace will continue to walk with you on this road. Both of these passages, I think, come at this a slightly different angle, like to highlight different parts of Paul's words to the church of Philippi, who would subsequently go through major disruptions. The next 50 to 100 years in this part of the world had famines, plagues, wars, you name it. Not to mention most of the early Christians were persecuted in the first century. It was not an accepted faith until hundreds of years later. So in the midst of all that's going on, Paul is saying, focus on the good. I'm leaving you with this. Don't dwell on just the negative, but see the things that are good and beautiful and true in our world. And I wonder if we do that. As we enter 2022, do we do that enough? I just found a bot. I'm talking about social media a bot, but you're getting into it in my life and one of my habits. I was on Twitter scrolling, and somebody retweeted a doom scrolling bot. You doom scrolling right now? Put down your phone and go do something else. And the point being, like, there's so much content that is mostly, I would say, negative. If I was to say, like, put a percentage on it, majority of the stuff that I consume, the messages, are either highlighting something negative or are making me feel negative. And I think there's a valid point to a lot of that, but the question I have for us as we enter the new year is, are we balancing that with the things that are good and beautiful? Because they are there. They're everywhere, behind every moment, every morning, every evening. There are so many things worth celebrating and honoring. So I want to talk about two things, and then I'm going to cede a bunch of my time to the late, great Desmond Tutu. Heroes in passing. Heroes. I think the world doesn't know how to do heroes properly. We either we canonize folks and make them beyond human, or we vilify people and see them as their worst moments. And I don't know what we do, how we do heroes, how we do role models anymore. I think there are acts that many of us do that are heroic, selfless, taking risks for the sake of others, but every single person is also flawed. And so we're a culture, especially the younger generations, that lack role models. We don't know who to look to anymore. Who do we trust? Paul says, look to my example. And I think there has to be a better way to find heroes, find people to look to that are doing good, that are offering us their example. And so one of the thoughts this year is, what does it mean for you to find some people that they aren't perfect, but they have things about them that you can learn from, that grow you as a human, that are good? Are there people out there? There are. Our culture, we're drawn to highlighting the negative, the gossip, the drama about people. That's what sells. That's what captures our attention. But the other side, people who are good and are just doing normal human acts of love and charity, they don't capture the headlines, right? So we have to do a little bit more work to balance that out and find people, find stories, find communities that are good and beautiful and true. Can you think of people right now that like you can look to as like, that person, I really appreciate the way they do this. I appreciate their generosity. I appreciate their life story. Are there people you can think of in your life? Recently, I joined a board of this nonprofit, and I was quickly realizing that on the board, I'm the dumbest person in the room. And that was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. All these people know more than I do, and they have more experience. And I can soak that in and try to learn from their example. What about acts of just kindness and generosity? We don't celebrate that. We don't, like, when we get together, I don't say, did you hear what so-and-so did? They like bought somebody lunch. Or they were just like really nice to me. I usually end up going like, did you hear what happened to so-and-so? They like broke up, or this thing happened, or we're drawn to the negative. What does it mean to focus on the good, the beautiful, the true? It's there. It's always there. It's everywhere. And what happens over time, especially with people, as we start to see people as their worst moments, and those messages creep into our spirit through media, that's what we start to see in everybody. We start to see them as their flaws and not the good, the true, the beautiful. So what does it mean to reclaim the idea of heroes, nuanced heroes who are humans, who are broken, just like you and me, but who are a little bit down the road from us? Do you have somebody in your life that you can look to? This brings me to the next word that I wanted to bring up. This idea of bypassing. We all heard that word. I think it's become pretty common, especially for those who have been hurt by other humans or gaslit, right? You're hurt and then told that hurt isn't real. And so this term has become common in pop culture, bypassing. And it's so valid because it names something that a lot of us have been through. It's true. I want to add to it that I think today we bypass the good. Like when there's good stuff happening, we don't celebrate it and stop it. Even in our own lives, we don't fully accept it. We feel guilty when there's something good happening often. I've talked to a lot of people, myself included, who has that experience. Like, I got to go on vacation, but you like don't want to tell people because everyone's stressed. Everyone's having a hard time. Or like this thing happened. I got a promotion, but I get the reason, because you don't want to highlight how there might be a disparity between something you have that somebody else doesn't have. But we've got to figure out a way to celebrate the good and not ignore it or move around it, because it's everywhere. I would love it if going into this next year, we could be people who found other humans that were beautiful and good and celebrated them. And then also with the good that is happening in our life, we don't neglect it or override it or pretend it's not there. And we can learn to celebrate those things. I created this habit a long time ago. I love toasting, like not toast from a toaster, but like cheersing. Like we don't have many communal acts or rituals of celebration anymore. We do lots of things that are, again, I'd say like negative or critical. That's normalized culture. But the positive isn't as much. And yes, there's a lot of bad in the world. This is the default, I think, in a lot of ways. The world is broken, but there's so much beautiful and good. Mr. Rogers once said, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. What if those were the things that drew our attention, that we focused on this year? In the midst of the uncertainty, the fear of the news cycle, of what's happening in the world, we focused on the helpers. We didn't avoid the fact that reality was messy, but we told the full story that reality is also beautiful and good. So how can you this year focus and see and notice the good more? That's a practice we have to do intentionally. And as we do, you start to see it more. I would put all these things that is good under the category of a way to look for God in the beautiful, in the good, and the noble, and the true, and all the things that Paul mentioned. As you start to look for it more, your eyes begin to see it more. And the converse is also true. As you start to look for the negative, that's all you'll see. You'll start to see it more and more. So how do we celebrate the good in the new year? How do we see the beauty of our neighbors, of our own lives, of artwork, of food, of kids laughing, of stars and skies? How do we stop and notice those things that are beautiful? So one of the ways I thought we could do that today is celebrating a person who I hope would be like a face of Christianity. There's lots of wonderful people who are, I would say, heroic, still humans, but heroic. And especially within our faith tradition, there's some amazing people that we should celebrate. And I'm really quick to critique faith leaders who are corrupt and gross me out. And there's a place for that. I think there's a need to deconstruct some of that. But I hope we don't stay there. We don't just have that as our MO, but that we also celebrate the beautiful, the good, the true. So Desmond Tutu, Archbishop from the Anglican Church in South Africa, passed away a couple weeks ago, December 26th last year. Was a wonderful human. If you've ever gotten a chance to watch any of his videos, especially later in life, the guy would just like laugh with the belly laugh at the silliest, simplest thing. He became really good friends with the Dalai Lama, and they went on this speaking circuit talking about joy, and they would just make fun of each other and laugh. There's something about his presence that I find just reflects the good, the beautiful, reflects God. In his life, he theologically sought to fuse ideas from African theology with even non-Christian African spirituality with his Anglican theology. He was an activist that stressed nonviolent protest against foreign pressure and apartheid. He was critical of the Israeli-Palestinian situation and very critical of Israel as a nation and some of their tactics. He was opposed to the Iraq War. Was very steeped in nonviolent activism. His expansive theology was generous, and he saw all faiths and all people as expressions of God who is love. Something that's important for us here. Like, what is God like? God is love. And love is beyond any category of religion. He wrote extensively on forgiveness, joy, and the generous openness of God's love for all humanity. He was also, and this is unique for where he was in the world, his context, his generation, was a strong activist for the LGBT community within faith community. So with the remainder of our time on this New Year's Sunday, the first Sunday of 2022, with all that's circling around our world, what does it mean for us to focus on the good, to see the beautiful? It's there. It's always there. And even thinking, reflecting on our own intake, the messages we consume, the ideas we dwell on, whether it's self-talk or talk shows, what stuff are we receiving? There is a place for the critique. There is a lot wrong with our world, and it's real. We don't want to neglect that. But that's not the whole story. We are people of resurrection, of hope and new life, always. So how do we balance that with the good, the beautiful, the true? What's a way you can do that this year? Whether looking for people, communities, ideas, how do we celebrate the good? So let's do that with Desmond Tutu. I'm going to just read some quotes and let the rest of this sermon be his. And these are just selected quotes. There's so many. It's hard to narrow down. And you'll get a window. These aren't any specific theme. These are just random thoughts. So maybe one of these things will stick with you today, and that'll be the sermon or the message or the encouragement that you might need today. One of the sayings in our country is Ubuntu, the essence of being human. Ubuntu speaks particularly about the fact that you can't exist as a human being in isolation. It speaks about our interconnectedness. We think of ourselves far too frequently as just individuals separated from one another, whereas you are connected, and what you do affects the whole world. When you do well, it spreads out. It is for the whole of humanity. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse, and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. Do your little bit of good where you are. It is those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. Bless you. If you want peace, you don't talk to your friends, you talk to your enemies. Discovering more joy does not save us from the inevitability of hardship and heartbreak. In fact, we may cry more easily, but we will laugh more easily too. Perhaps we are just more alive. Yet as we discover more joy, we can face suffering in a way that enables rather than embitters. We have hardship without becoming hard. We have heartbreaks without being broken. Despair can come from deep grief, but it can also be a defense against the risks of bitter disappointment and shattering heartbreak. Resignation and cynicism are easier, more self-soothing postures that do not require raw vulnerability and tragic risk of hope. To choose hope is to step firmly forward into the howling wind, bearing one's chest to the elements, knowing that in time, the storm will pass. I'm not interested in picking up crumbs of compassion thrown from the table of someone who considers himself my master. I want the full menu of rights. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. There's a fun one that's you may have heard. When the missionaries came to Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. They said, "Let us pray." We closed our eyes. When we opened them, we had the Bible and they had the land. We may be surprised at the people we'll find in heaven. God has a soft spot for sinners. His standards are quite low. It is through weakness and vulnerability that most of us learn empathy and compassion and discover our soul. I am absolutely, utterly, and completely certain that God wouldn't be homophobic. I'd much rather go to hell. I really would much rather go to hell than to go to a homophobic heaven. Forgiveness is nothing less than the way we heal the world. We heal the world by healing each and every one of our hearts. The process is simple, but it is not easy. A great soul, a beautiful human to be celebrated. There are many saints out there. Can we find them? Can we celebrate the good this year? Can we put boundaries around the negative that we consume? Can we look for God more and more in the helpers and the beautiful and the noble and the true? So the two closing questions, which are the refrain from today. Where did you see God? If you don't like that word, just goodness in 2021 over the last 12 months. Can you think of moments and experiences that were good, that you can receive as gifts? Notice those things, celebrate those things, give thanks for them. My experience is the more you celebrate, the more you start to notice it more and more. And then finally, how can you look for the good, the noble, the true, the good, the God in this next season? What's a way you can shift the gaze of your eyes a little bit out of the negative doom cycle climate that we're in towards the good? Because it's there. I think that's the whole story. And ultimately, our faith is that love wins, that the good wins, that resurrection is real. In some miraculous, mysterious way, Christ overcomes. Christ wins. Would you pray with me? And Greg will lead us in another song. God, as we step into tomorrow, into today, into the future, we trust you with this new year. As much as it's an arbitrary moment in a calendar, it also carries with it meaning. May we celebrate all that has happened in the last year, even in the midst of the hard and the negative. There's been so much good. There's been so much beauty. Help us into these coming days and months and years be people who see your movement in our world, see the good. May we find the helpers, the people who are not perfect, but we can learn from and celebrate. And as we do, would we become heroes? Would we become the people who reflect your love to our world, that others could look to? Say, there's somebody who's walking the path of love, even in the midst of the hardships of our world, just like your son did. God, I pray that everyone in this space, online or watching later, will be able to sense your presence with them today, somehow, somewhere, that we learn to see that and experience that more and more. Your love, your warmth, your beauty, your goodness, the truth of your welcome to all, the hope that you get the last word. We love you, God. I pray this all in Christ's name. Amen. Hey, Greg. You're muted.
Bootsy, technical difficulties. Right on. Take two. Action. I hope that this thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. I hope that this song operates as a prayer for us as we continue to look for the good, reminding us that all glory be to Christ. Should nothing of our efforts stand, no legacy survive, unless the Lord does raise the house in vain, its builders strive. To you who boast tomorrow's gain, tell me, what is your life? A mist that vanishes at dawn. All glory be to Christ. All glory be to Christ our King. All glory be to Christ. His rule and reign will ever sing. All glory be to Christ. His will be done, his kingdom come on earth as is above. Who himself our daily bread, praise him, the Lord of love. Let living water satisfy the thirst And all God's people everywhere said, amen. Take it away, Chris.
Technology, huh? That's a good song. We're going to enter into communion. And the way we'll do that is there's communion cups, and you can grab one, and they're new. We got some feedback that the last ones were gross. These are newer. Hopefully they're less gross. We hope you grab one, or at home, either you have some communion with you, or your next meal can be a moment to have a reflection with our source of life. The night that Jesus was with his friends, he took some bread. He gathered their attention, said, "Friends, this is my body broken for you." And then took a cup, shared it, offered it, saying, "This is my blood, spilled as a new covenant, a new way, a new reality. Every time you eat and drink, remember me. Remember the God who is a source of all of our life, the God who is good and true and beautiful, even in the hard times. Whatever next year brings, these coming months, this will hold true throughout forever. The God of love." And close with the benediction. If you would stand as we go out from here. God of love, in this in-between season, may we seek your kingdom even still. Where there is uncertainty, may we sow faith. Where there is isolation, may we sow solidarity. Where there is division, may we sow healing. No matter what happens, may we take heart in the hope and love of Christ, which bears all, heals all, and overcomes all. Be with us now as we go forth to love and serve the world in person or from a distance. Amen. Have a great Sunday. So even if there's 15 of us over the next few weeks, it's cool. Feel free to join us. We'd love to have you. And online community, we miss you. We'll see you soon. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.